Someone call 911. That man is stealing my car right now. The screech cut through the September evening air. I froze, key fob still raised toward my garage door, the electronic beep confirming what I already knew. This was my driveway, my house, my '69 Dodge Charger that I'd spent 2 years rebuilding from a rust bucket into 440 cubic inch perfection. Sandra Whitmore came speed walking across her lawn like she was late for a complaint, iPhone already pressed to her ear, her face twisted with fury. Yes, I need police at 847 Desert Willow Lane. There's someone trying to steal my classic car, the purple one. Yes, I'll stay on the line. Ma'am, what are you talking about? I kept my voice calm despite the absurdity hitting me. This is my car, in my garage. Don't lie to me. I just bought that exact Charger yesterday for $42,000. She positioned herself like a crossing guard, arms spread wide. I have photos. I have documentation. The confusion genuinely stunned me. This woman, my HOA president neighbor who'd been nitpicking my property for months, had somehow convinced herself my restoration project was her imaginary purchase. My name is David Patterson, third-generation auto body guy in Phoenix, Arizona. When my marriage ended last spring, Rebecca decided grease under fingernails wasn't as attractive as she'd thought. I bought a modest house in Sunset Ridge Estates. Nice neighborhood, reasonable HOA, or so I believed. The Charger came from an estate sale 16 months ago. Margaret Sullivan, sweet 87-year-old widow, sold me her late husband's project car for $4,200 cash. Every weekend became my therapy, rebuilding the engine, restoring the body, documenting every step with photos for insurance. That paint job took months of work until the plum-crazy purple could stop traffic. Then there's Sandra Whitmore, real estate agent, HOA president for 3 years, and the human embodiment of a clipboard. White Lexus that gets detailed weekly, manicured everything, and a smile that never reaches her eyes. Her specialty? Finding violations nobody else would notice. She'd cited old man Henderson for grass clippings on his driveway, measured my grass with an actual ruler, claiming it exceeded 2.75 inches. 3 weeks ago, she'd complained about my carburetor work being industrial activity affecting property values. The day everything exploded started with Sandra's monthly pool party. Saturday morning, I heard her voice through my garage walls. Oh yes, that's going to be mine. Just bought it from a Scottsdale dealer, $42,000. They're shipping it next week. I rolled out from under my car. She was showing people phone photos of what looked exactly like my Charger, basking in their impressed reactions. That afternoon, I needed brake fluid and fired up my baby. The 440's rumble echoed off the house as deep, beautiful, absolutely glorious. When I returned, Sandra stood in her driveway, arms crossed, staring at my car with intense focus. I nodded politely. She didn't respond, just kept studying my Charger. 20 minutes later, a single patrol car pulled up. Officer Bennett approached with the patient demeanor of someone who'd handled plenty of neighbor disputes. Evening, sir. We got a call about a stolen vehicle? Stolen vehicle? Officer, this is my car, in my garage, at my house. Sandra appeared beside him, phone clutched tight. That's him. I purchased that exact Charger yesterday for $42,000. I took a breath, pulling out my phone. Officer, I can prove ownership right now. This car's been mine 16 months. I rebuilt every bolt. Bennett studied my progression photos, rust bucket to perfection, his eyebrows raised. That's serious work. You do this professionally? Family business, Patterson's Auto Body. My grandfather would have disowned me for sloppy work. Sandra thrust printed photos at Bennett, generic dealer stock shots downloaded from somewhere. I wired money yesterday, they're shipping it this week. Bennett examined her evidence without much enthusiasm. Stock photos, no VIN, no paperwork. Ma'am, do you have actual purchase documentation, bill of sale, wire transfer receipts? Her face flushed. It's being processed. Classic car paperwork takes time. I was already heading to my garage. 3-ring binder, organized by date. Here's my DMV registration. 16 months old. My name, this address, matching VIN. Bennett's flashlight confirmed everything aligned perfectly. Insurance policy too. Progressive required restoration photos for coverage. While Sandra improvised increasingly creative explanations, I pulled out my original bill of sale handwritten on yellow legal paper. Margaret Sullivan, estate sale in Tempe. Bought it for $4,200 16 months ago. She made me promise to send photos when I finished. Bennett examined it carefully. The silence stretched for a solid 10 seconds. Ma'am, this gentleman has documented ownership spanning 16 months. Your evidence is internet printouts. His tone shifted. Filing false reports wastes police resources. I suggest you verify your facts before calling 911. Sandra's face went from red to white. There must be the confusion of car shopping. These cars all look similar, but her eyes told a different story as Bennett left. Through her window that night, I caught her staring at me with cold calculation. This wasn't over. Monday morning brought an official HOA violation notice in my mailbox. Notice of covenant violation, unauthorized commercial vehicle storage. My work van, ordinary Ford Transit with company name painted on the side, allegedly violated community standards. $200 fine. 48-hour deadline. Sandra's signature at the bottom. I spent lunch at the county courthouse digging through records. Discovered my van, purchased 2019, sat in my driveway 2 full years before Sunset Ridge enacted commercial vehicle restrictions in 2021. Grandfathered in. Protected by law. I drafted a response with documentation and hand-delivered it to the HOA office. The receptionist's eyes widened. Oh dear, Mrs. Whitmore won't like this. She was right. Wednesday brought 3 more violation notices. Alleged oil stains on my driveway I power washed monthly. Excessive automotive odors from my garage. Apparently WD-40 offended her. Noise violations during legal hours, carpet bombing me with paperwork. That's when I invested in security cameras. 4 high-def cameras with night vision and cloud backup. The footage revealed Sandra's new hobby, property surveillance. Every morning, photographing my property with her iPhone, measuring distances with a yardstick. Thursday evening, emergency board meeting notice. Appeared at 4 p.m. for a 7 p.m. meeting, barely legal notification. I showed up finding 3 women around a folding table. Sandra, nervous Patricia, and nodding Janet. Where's the rest of the board? I asked. Sandra's smile was ice cold. We're implementing emergency restrictions on automotive repair. Past violations carry $500 fines. I pulled out my phone with the bylaws. Article 4. Section 3 requires 7 days notice for voting matters. Section 4.7 requires 5 board members for official votes. I count 3 people. Patricia looked like she wanted to disappear. And Section 2.9 states invalid meetings create personal liability for board members attempting to enforce illegitimate decisions. Sandra's composure cracked. You think you're so smart, don't you? Coming into our neighborhood, disrupting everything. I think I read contracts before signing them, I replied, calmly. That night, neighbor Tom knocked on my door. Most of us think she's lost it. Want to grab coffee? Time, we talked. Friday morning brought city code enforcement. Cameron Harris stood on my porch. Anonymous complaint about unlicensed commercial auto repair. Mind if I look? He stepped into my spotless garage. His tension evaporated. Jesus, this is cleaner than most pro shops. What do you do? Family business, Patterson's Auto Body. This is pure hobby. Weekends only, no customers. He scribbled notes. Anonymous complainant claimed illegal business. I see 0 evidence. You're completely compliant. As he left. Off the record? 6th time here this month. Same voice every time? Different complaints. Tuesday afternoon. My insurance agent, Bill, showed up after Sandra filed a complaint claiming fire hazards. Bill spent 10 minutes admiring my engine bay. Someone's trying to mess with you. Your setup exceeds commercial standards. Progressive sent Sandra a cease and desist letter about false claims. But Sandra found social media. The Sunset Ridge Community Watch Facebook group appeared overnight. Her post featured photos of my van and garage. Concerned about maintaining community standards, some automotive activities might be more appropriate elsewhere. Thoughts on protecting our investments? Tom showed me screenshots over coffee. 27 people joined in 2 hours. Comments exploded. Several neighbors defended me, sharing their own Sandra stories. Others stayed silent, calculating social costs of opposing the HOA president. When Sandra started deleting disagreeable comments, suburban fury ignited. The group fractured into warring factions. Sunday morning, 24 roofing nails scattered across my driveway. Security cameras caught a 2:47 a.m. figure in a dark hoodie. That distinctive speed walk looked familiar. Officer Brooks took my report seriously. Classic intimidation pattern. Document everything. These cases simmer, then explode into arrests quickly. Wednesday's mail brought an anonymous letter on generic printer paper. Your kind doesn't belong here. Leave voluntarily or face consequences. The paper matched Sandra's HOA notices perfectly. Same weight, same texture. Detective Bennett examined it. Threatening correspondence. We're building a case. Keep documenting. That evening, Tom's coalition expanded to 6 households, each with Sandra documentation. Mike the lawyer, Sarah the accountant, others with their own violation stories. Time for coordinated resistance, Tom declared. Individual complaints get ignored. Group action gets results. Friday afternoon in the county courthouse basement, I spent hours in Research Room C reviewing HOA financial records. What I found made my coffee go cold. Payments to questionable companies jumped out. $18,000 to SW Property Solutions for vague consulting. $11,500 to Whitmore Gardens for landscaping that never happened. $14,700 to Wilson Legal Associates, starting exactly when Sandra's divorce began. All 3 companies shared one address, Sandra's house. Arizona's business registry confirmed it. SW Property Solutions, sole proprietor, Sandra Whitmore. Our HOA president had been funneling approximately $44,000 over 18 months. I sat there in that fluorescent lit basement, surrounded by boxes of financial records, and felt my hands start to shake. Not from fear, from pure anger, mixed with something close to vindication. Every instinct I'd had about Sandra being more than just a power-hungry HOA president was right. She wasn't just harassing me for kicks. This was business. I pulled out more files, my heart racing as the pattern became clearer. Cross-referencing the dates of her shell company payments with the HOA meeting, minutes told a story. Every time residents questioned expenses, Sandra had conveniently scheduled emergency discussions that got buried under other agenda items. Every time someone asked for detailed financial reports, she'd promise transparency next quarter that never came. But what really got me was finding the foreclosure notice buried 3 files deep. Sandra Whitmore, HOA president and self-appointed guardian of community standards, hadn't paid her own HOA dues in 14 months. The woman who'd measured my grass with a ruler owed the association $19,000. I pulled out my phone and started photographing everything. Page after page, receipt after receipt. My phone's storage warning dinged twice, but I kept going. This wasn't just about defending myself anymore. This was about 47 families who'd been systematically robbed. The real gut punch came when I found the sales records. I'd noticed houses selling in our neighborhood over the past year. The Morrisons, the Patels, the Rodriguez family. What I hadn't known was the pattern. Morrison family. 6 months of escalating violations for their teenage son's car being parked on the street overnight. Violation after violation, fine after fine. They'd sold for $285,000. Public records showed the house had been appraised at $320,000 just 2 months before they listed it. Sandra Whitmore had been the listing agent. Commission, $17,100. The Patel's weekly violations for cooking odors that allegedly violated some phantom community standard that didn't exist in any written bylaws. They'd sold for $298,000, appraised at $335,000. Sandra Whitmore, listing agent. Commission, $17,880. She was running a systematic harassment campaign to force families to sell below market value, then swooping in as their agent to collect commissions. The people who bought these properties? I dug deeper into public records. 3 different LLCs, but when I traced the registered agents, they all led back to the same Phoenix investment group. Sandra was getting kickbacks on both ends, commission from desperate sellers, and finder's fees from grateful buyers getting below market properties. My single-family home, recently appraised at $340,000, probably looked like a jackpot to someone drowning in debt and facing foreclosure in 4 weeks. I sat there for another 20 minutes, just thinking. Sandra wasn't just some bored real estate agent with a power complex. She was running a calculated real estate scheme, and I was her latest mark. The false police report, the escalating violations, the social media campaign, it was all designed to make me so miserable I'd sell cheap just to escape. Then she'd pocket her commission and her kickback, probably enough to stave off her own foreclosure for a few more months. The thing that really got me, was thinking about the families she'd already driven out. The Morrisons had a kid with special needs who loved his routines. They'd mentioned at a block party how stressed he was about moving. The Patels had saved for years to buy their dream home. Talked about finally having space for Mrs. Patel's mother to visit from India. Sandra had systematically destroyed these families' stability for her own financial gain. I thought about calling Tom right then, but something made me pause. If Sandra was this desperate, this calculated, what would she do when she realized people were investigating her? I'd already seen her scatter nails on my driveway, file false police reports, attempt insurance fraud. A cornered animal was dangerous. I needed to be smarter. Document everything. Build an airtight case, then strike when she couldn't see it coming. I copied every relevant document, $17 in copying fees that felt like the best investment of my life. As the machine hummed through page after page of Sandra's financial crimes, I mentally tallied what we had. Embezzlement, $44,000 documented, probably more if we audited further back. Insurance fraud, her false complaint to my insurer. Filing false police reports, at least 2 documented incidents, harassment pattern, written violations, social media posts, the threatening letter, real estate fraud, the systematic targeting scheme, wire fraud, if she'd used email or electronic transfers for her shell companies, and the cherry on top, her own HOA default and impending foreclosure that she'd hidden from the community while serving as president. Sandra had built herself a house of cards, and I was about to blow it over. But I needed to be careful. One wrong move and she'd lawyer up, destroy evidence, or worse, escalate the harassment to something more dangerous. Walking back to my truck through the courthouse parking lot, the October Phoenix sun beating down, I had a moment of doubt. Was I really ready for this? Taking on not just Sandra, but potentially exposing corruption that would blow up our entire HOA? What if people blamed me for the chaos this would cause? Then I thought about that threatening letter. Your kind doesn't belong here. Not you or homeowners like you. Your kind. She'd made this about more than property values or noise complaints. She'd made it personal. Made it about who deserved to live in her neighborhood. My grandfather had always said, "Son, you can walk away from a lot of things in life. You can let small insults slide, minor injustices go unchallenged, but when someone tells you that you don't belong somewhere you've earned the right to be, you stand your ground. Not for pride, for principle." I wasn't just defending my property anymore. I was defending every family Sandra had driven out, every person she might target next, and the basic principle that you don't get to steal from your community while pretending to protect it. I pulled out my phone and called Tom. You sitting down? Because what I just found changes absolutely everything. Saturday morning, Tom's garage became mission control. Our crew, Sarah the accountant, Mike the lawyer, Linda the teacher, Robert the contractor. Jesus, Sarah muttered, examining the records. This embezzlement has zero subtlety. Mike scanned documents, $44,000 in fraudulent transactions. Paper trail's perfect. This is prosecutor gold. Linda mapped harassment against home sales. Beautiful pattern, target families, escalate violations, produce buyers when they break. Our plan emerged over 3 hours. Documentation. Robert would add security coverage neighborhood-wide. Legal strategy. Mike explained fiduciary duties create personal liability. Criminal complaints would be filed embezzlement, harassment, false reports. Board elections were perfectly timed. Tom, Sarah, and Mike would run, flipping control from Sandra's committee. Public information. Linda would create professional flyers explaining the theft. When families discovered they'd been overcharged, revolutions happened fast. Media. HOA president embezzles while harassing homeowners? Channel 12 gold, Robert said. We'd let Sandra think she was winning while we built our case. When we struck, it would be overwhelming. Monday morning brought panic. Sandra pacing her driveway at 7 a.m., phone to her ear. I need an emergency meeting tonight. Something's happening. Emergency assessment notices appeared. $450 per household for legal defense against outside agitators. What Sandra didn't know, Tom had recorded her meeting. They're investigating finances. I don't know what they know, but we need control before this gets out. Patricia's nervous voice. Sandra, maybe we should... No, I've worked too hard. If I leave town, fine. But I'm not going down alone. Mike's grin, hearing that recording, could power streetlights. Wednesday afternoon, everything fell apart. I was at the shop finishing up a brake job on Mrs. Henderson's Camry when my phone exploded with notifications. Text after text after text. My stomach dropped before I even read the first one. David, check the Sunset Ridge page. Now. Sarah, don't panic. We can handle this. She's gone nuclear. Call me. I opened Facebook with hands that weren't quite steady. The Sunset Ridge Community Watch Group had a new pinned post from Sandra, and it had been up for 3 hours. 3 hours while I'd been under a car without cell service. The post was a masterpiece of manipulation. Urgent community safety alert. After receiving multiple complaints and conducting thorough investigation, the board has discovered that David Patterson, 847 Desert Willow, has been operating an unlicensed automotive business in violation of city codes, HOA covenants, and potentially federal EPA regulations. We've documented evidence of illegal disposal of automotive fluids, unpermitted commercial operations, property damage to adjacent homes, harassment of board members attempting to enforce community standards, threats made against HOA leadership. The board has voted to pursue immediate legal action for covenant enforcement. We take no pleasure in this, but community safety must come first. Several families have expressed fear for their children's safety given the escalating situation. Board meeting Friday 7 p.m. to discuss emergency remedies, including possible injunction. All residents encouraged to attend. Below the post, 14 professionally shot photos. My garage, with tools visible, made to look like a commercial operation. My driveway at an angle that made normal oil spots look like environmental hazards. My security cameras pointed at Sandra's house, made to look like surveillance harassment. Screenshots of my Facebook comments defending myself, presented without context to look aggressive. And the comments. Oh God, the comments. I've been saying this for months. That constant noise is unbearable. Property values are going to tank if this continues. My kids play in our backyard. I don't feel safe with all those chemicals next door. Even people I'd thought were neutral were piling on. The social pressure was a tsunami. Tom, Sarah, Mike, Linda, and Robert were fighting back in the comments, but they were being drowned out. Then I saw the real knife. Update. City of Phoenix Code Enforcement will be conducting a comprehensive inspection tomorrow, Thursday at 10 a.m. All residents welcome to observe. We will also be filing a formal complaint with the Arizona Attorney General's office regarding financial harassment of HOA board members. My phone rang. Mike, the lawyer, his voice tight. David, we need to talk. Now. I left work early, drove to Mike's home office in a daze. He had printouts spread across his desk, and his expression was grim. She's smart. I'll give her that. Mike tapped the papers. This emergency assessment notice she sent out? She's claiming you are costing the HOA money and legal fees, so everyone has to pay $450 to defend against your harassment. She's positioned herself as the victim and you as the aggressor. But we have evidence, which we haven't released yet because we're building the case properly. Mike cut me off. Right now, to most of your neighbors, you look like exactly what Sandra's claiming, a problem resident causing expensive legal trouble. People don't read financial documents. They read Facebook posts with scary words like EPA violations and safety concerns. Sarah arrived 15 minutes later, her accountant's calm cracking slightly. I've been getting calls. People asking if they should be worried about property values. If your business is bringing down the neighborhood, 3 people have told me they're considering moving if this situation continues. The weight of it hit me like a punch to the chest. Sandra had flipped the script. Our careful evidence gathering looked like delay tactics. Our coalition looked like a small group defending a problem resident. Our documentation looked like obsessive behavior. There's more, Tom said quietly, walking in behind Sarah. I talked to Patricia this morning. She's terrified. Sandra told her that if the board doesn't stick together, they'll all be personally sued. She's convinced Janet and Patricia that you're unstable and dangerous. They're talking about filing for a restraining order. A restraining order? My voice came out strangled. Based on what? Doesn't matter. Mike's tone was heavy. In Arizona, temporary restraining orders are easy to get. If Sandra claims she fears for her safety and has a sympathetic judge, you could be barred from attending HOA meetings, from being within 100 yards of her. It would make you look guilty even if it's eventually dismissed. I sat down hard in Mike's leather chair. So, we're losing. The silence that followed was answer enough. The city inspection tomorrow? I said finally. What happens if they find something? A tool not properly stored? A drain that technically isn't compliant? Anything? She'll use it to justify everything she's claimed. Sarah said, it doesn't matter that you're not running a business. One minor violation and she'll paint it as proof that all her accusations were valid. Linda pulled up something on her phone. It gets worse. She's scheduled that emergency board meeting for Friday at 7 p.m. Prime time for maximum attendance. She's going to have a room full of scared, angry neighbors who've been reading her propaganda for 3 days. She'll call for a vote on legal action, probably something about forcing you to cease all automotive activities or face daily fines. Can she do that? I asked, though I already knew the answer from Mike's expression. Technically, no. But if she packs that meeting with supporters and gets it on record, it creates legal complications. Even if we prove later that the vote was invalid, you'll have spent months and thousands of dollars fighting it. And the whole neighborhood will remember you as that problem guy who caused all the trouble. Tom pulled up a chair next to me. Some people are starting to question whether fighting Sandra is worth the hassle. I've heard whispers. Maybe David should just agree to keep his garage door closed, keep the van somewhere else, compromise for the sake of peace. They don't understand this isn't about compromise. She's trying to force you out so she can profit from your property. I thought about the Morrisons, the Patels, the Rodriguez family. They'd all reached this same point, the moment where fighting back seemed more costly than just giving in. Pack up, sell cheap, move somewhere else. Let Sandra win, because proving her wrong required more energy, money, and social capital than most people had. And I was tired. God, I was so tired. 3 months of constant stress, escalating harassment, sleepless nights, checking security cameras. My work was suffering, I'd been distracted, short-tempered with customers. My relationship with Sarah was solid, but strained by the constant drama. The Charger sat in my garage, barely driven, because every time I started it, I worried about what new complaint Sandra would generate. Maybe they were right. Maybe I should just leave. Buy a house somewhere else, somewhere without an HOA, somewhere I could work in peace. Cut my losses, take whatever I could get for the property, start over. David. Mike's voice cut through my spiral. Look at me. I met his eyes. She wins if you leave. Not just with you, she wins forever. She'll keep doing this to the next person and the next. The city inspection tomorrow, Sarah said carefully. I've been thinking about it. Why is she so confident? She must believe they'll find something, or she wouldn't have invited everyone to watch. The realization hit me like ice water. She's going to plant something, just like she planted those oil containers before. She'll put something in my garage tonight that will fail inspection. Can't, Robert said, speaking up for the first time. Your cameras cover every angle. She knows that now. Then she'll have someone else do it, I said, my mind racing through possibilities. Or she'll bribe the inspector. Or, Linda interrupted. We're paranoid, and she's just gambling that a residential garage inspected by city codes will have some minor technical violation she can exploit. The room fell silent. Outside, the Phoenix evening was cooling down. Inside, I felt like I was drowning. I need to think, I said finally. Tomorrow's inspection is going to make or break this. If they find violations, Sandra wins the narrative. If they don't, she'll just claim they're incompetent, or that I cleaned up evidence. Tom's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and swore quietly. The Facebook post has been shared 47 times. People outside our neighborhood are commenting. This is going viral locally. Going viral as the problem resident. As the aggressive guy harassing the poor HOA president just trying to maintain community standards. Everything we'd worked for, all the evidence we'd gathered, it didn't matter if public perception had already been set. I drove home that night past Sandra's house. Her lights were on, and through the window I could see her on the phone, gesturing animatedly, probably calling more people, building more support, tightening the noose. In my garage, I looked at the charger, hundreds of hours of work, thousands of dollars, a connection to my grandfather's legacy and my family's craft. I'd rebuilt this car bolt by bolt as therapy after my divorce, as a way of fixing broken things and making them beautiful again. Now it felt like evidence in a crime I didn't commit. My phone buzzed, a text from a number I didn't recognize. Take the hint, sell your house and move. Some battles aren't worth fighting. This is your last friendly warning. I sat there on my workbench, wrench in hand, and for the first time since this whole nightmare began, I genuinely didn't know if I had the strength to keep fighting. Sandra had done it. She'd found my breaking point. The question was, would I break? Or would I break through? Wednesday, 3:17 a.m., security cameras caught Sandra in black yoga pants and hoodie, scattering motor oil containers behind my garage. Thursday's code enforcement visit found them immediately still had Home Depot stickers. Ma'am, filing false environmental reports is serious. I'm documenting this. But something else happened that Thursday that Sandra hadn't counted on. Mrs. Sullivan, Margaret Sullivan, the woman who'd sold me the Charger 16 months ago, showed up at my door at 6:30 p.m. holding a manila envelope. I heard about the trouble, she said in her soft voice, her eyes sharp despite her 87 years. I still have friends in Sunset Ridge. They told me what that woman is claiming about your car. She handed me the envelope. Inside, the original bill of sale, but also something else, a notarized letter she'd had prepared that afternoon. To whom it may concern, I, Margaret Sullivan, sold the 1969 Dodge Charger VIN, RS23U 9B274156, to David Patterson on March 15th for $4,200 cash as part of my late husband's estate sale. Mr. Sin, Patterson has sent me regular progress photos of the restoration over the past 16 months, showing the care and expertise he has invested in honoring my husband's memory. Any claims that this vehicle was purchased by another party are categorically false. I am prepared to testify to this in any legal proceeding. The car David restored is not just his property. It's a tribute to my husband's love of American automotive history, and I'm proud of the work David has done. I felt something break through in my chest. Mrs. Sullivan, you didn't have to. Yes, I did. Her voice was firm. Thomas would have done the same. You don't let bullies win, Mr. Patterson, not when you've done nothing wrong. That evening, while Sandra was building her social media case, our coalition was quietly making calls. By Thursday night, Linda had contacted every single household in Sunset Ridge, all 47 families. Not with accusations or demands, just with a simple question. Have you actually looked at the HOA financial statements from the past 2 years? Most people admitted they hadn't. HOA finances were boring. They paid their dues and assumed someone responsible was managing things properly. Linda's response was the same to everyone. Maybe it's time we all did. The annual budget report is public record. Before Friday's meeting, just take 10 minutes and look at the expenses section, particularly the vendor payments. Friday morning dawned with an interesting development. Sarah had worked through the night with 2 forensic accountant colleagues, creating a one-page financial summary. Sunset Ridge OA, where did your money go? Total dues collected 2023 to 2024, $94,000. Legitimate expenses, landscaping, insurance, utilities, $47,000. Payments to SW Property Solutions, consulting, $18,000 times company registered to Sandra Whitmore's address, times no consulting services documented or delivered, payments to Whitmore Gardens, $11,500, times. Company dissolved 2023. After receiving payments times, no work performed payments to Wilson Legal, legal services. $14,700 times Sandra Whitmore's ex-husband's firm times no HOA legal matters documented total unexplained expenses, $44,200. Your household share of missing money, approximately $940. Question: where did your money go? The flyers appeared in every mailbox by noon Friday, 6 hours before the big meeting. Linda, Tom, Robert, and 3 other neighbors had hand-delivered them personally, making sure each household received one. By 2 p.m., my phone started buzzing with texts from neighbors I barely knew. Is this financial summary accurate? I never authorized consulting services. What were we supposedly consulting about? Why is our HOA paying Sandra's ex-husband's law firm? The Facebook group's tone started shifting. People were asking questions Sandra couldn't easily answer without incriminating herself. She tried deleting comments, which only made people angrier and more suspicious. At 5 p.m., Mike received a call from Patricia. Her voice was shaking. I'm resigning from the board, effective immediately. Sandra asked me to lie about the finances at tonight's meeting. She wanted me to say the payments were approved by unanimous board votes, but they weren't. She approved them herself without telling us. I can't do this anymore. I'm cooperating with whatever investigation needs to happen. By 6:30 p.m., 30 minutes before the scheduled emergency meeting, the Sunset Ridge Community Center parking lot was packed beyond anything I'd ever seen. Every household had sent at least one representative. People who hadn't attended an HOA meeting in 5 years were showing up. The energy in the room wasn't what Sandra had planned. Instead of angry neighbors demanding action against me, there was a different kind of anger, the cold fury of people who'd realized they'd been played. Sandra arrived at 6:55 p.m., confident smile in place, clipboard ready. She froze when she saw the crowd and the front row where Mrs. Sullivan sat next to Officer Bennett off duty, attending as a concerned community member, next to Detective Sarah Reynolds, next to Mike Foster holding a thick folder of documents. The meeting started at 7:02 p.m. Sandra tried to call it to order, but before she could start her prepared remarks, Tom stood up. Point of order, Madam President. Before we discuss any new business, I'm formally requesting a financial audit presentation. State law requires HOA board members to provide financial transparency when requested by residents. I'm requesting it now, supported by, he looked around, approximately 40 households based on the raised hands I'm seeing. 43 hands were raised, out of 47 households. Sandra's smile flickered. That's not on tonight's agenda. We have pressing matters. Actually, Mike Foster stood, his lawyer voice cutting through the room like a knife. Arizona Revised Statutes, Section 33 to 1806 mandates that HOA boards must provide financial documentation when requested by any homeowner. You can table other discussions, but you cannot refuse this request. Sandra looked at Patricia for support. Patricia was staring at her hands. She looked at Janet. Janet was suddenly very interested in the ceiling tiles. The financial records are complex and require time to prepare properly. We have them right here, Sarah said, standing and holding up a laptop. I obtained them from public records. Shall I present the analysis, or would you like to explain these vendor payments yourself? The room went absolutely silent. Sandra's face went through a remarkable color journey, red to white to a grayish green. This is harassment. This is exactly the kind of hostile behavior I've been documenting. Ma'am, Detective Reynolds stood, showing her badge. My department has been investigating complaints related to this HOA for several weeks. If you'd like to discuss harassment, perhaps we should talk about the false police reports, the threatening letter, and the surveillance footage we've collected. Would you prefer to have that conversation here or at the station? The meeting dissolved into chaos. Neighbors started shouting questions. Sandra tried to maintain control, failed. Tried to adjourn the meeting, was overruled by a thunderous no from approximately 40 people. Henderson, the 72-year-old retiree who'd been cited for grass clippings, stood up. I move that we hold an immediate vote of no confidence in the current board president. Seconded, came from at least a dozen voices. Mike Foster, ever. The lawyer called for proper procedure. This requires a formal motion, proper notice, parliamentary procedure, screw procedure. Someone yelled from the back. Show of hands who wants Sandra removed. 43 hands shot up. Sandra grabbed her purse and clipboard. This meeting is illegitimate. I'm leaving and consulting my attorney. You're going to need that attorney, Detective Reynolds said quietly. We'll be in touch very soon regarding multiple criminal complaints. Sandra walked out of that community center at 7:34 p.m. Her reign ended by her own hubris and the collective fury of people who'd finally had enough. After she left, the energy transformed. People were talking over each other, sharing stories of Sandra's harassment they'd never felt safe mentioning before, apologizing to me for not speaking up sooner. Mrs. Sullivan approached me, patting my arm. Thomas would have been proud of you, standing your ground. Tom called for order, and we held an impromptu vote to appoint a temporary board. Tom as president, Sarah as treasurer, Mike as legal advisor. The vote was unanimous. First order of business, Tom announced, formal criminal complaint to Phoenix PD and the Arizona Attorney General. Second order, full financial audit by an independent firm. Third order, written apology to David Patterson for the harassment he's endured. Fourth order, pizza, because it's 8:30 and I'm starving. The room erupted in laughter. As people filed out, at least 24 neighbors came up to apologize personally, to thank me for not giving up, to admit they'd been too afraid to stand against Sandra alone. That's the thing about bullies, Henderson said, shaking my hand. They count on everyone being too scared to fight back. The second people realize they're not alone, the bully's power evaporates. Walking to my truck that night, I looked up at the October stars above Phoenix, crystal clear in the dry air, bright enough to remind you there's a whole universe beyond HOA drama. I'd come within inches of giving up. But I hadn't been alone. The community had been there all along, waiting for someone to be brave enough to stand first so others could stand beside them. Sandra's Facebook post was still up, but now the comments were very different. We owe David an apology. Can't believe we almost fell for this manipulation. Thank you for exposing the truth. The tide had turned. Now came the legal consequences. Sandra's Facebook meltdown began that afternoon, increasingly desperate posts about outside agitators. Her 2:47 a.m. Friday post was self-incrimination gold. When certain elements move in and change neighborhood character, decent owners must take action to protect investments. Screenshots saved. Forwarded everywhere. Saturday, Sandra approached Robert installing cameras at Linda's. I know David's paying you. Here's $2,000 cash if you forget about those cameras. Robert kept working while recording everything. Ma'am, I'm just helping neighbors. Maybe talk to a lawyer. I don't need lawyers. I need this neighborhood back under control. Sunday evening. Another false police report claiming I'd threatened her with a weapon. Officers found me in my garage working on Henderson's brakes with 4 witnesses present. Bennett's patience evaporated. Ma'am, this is your 4th false report. You're looking at charges. Tuesday, 2:51 a.m. Sandra broke into the HOA office. Using a copied master key, security footage showed her feeding documents into the shredder. The alarm triggered. Bennett arrived, finding her elbow deep in evidence destruction. Ma'am, step away and put your hands up. You don't understand. They're destroying everything. This was perfect before they came. $15,000. She spent 3 days in county lockup. While Sandra was in jail, Patricia visited with a hidden recorder. I need help, Patricia. There's money in my garage. $23,000 cash. Help me get it, and we disappear. Mike, hearing that recording. Confession. Witness tampering. Flight risk. She confessed to everything from jail. Thursday's emergency neighborhood meeting packed beyond capacity. 40 households showed up. Sarah presented audit results. Sandra hadn't just stolen $44,000, including overcharges and phantom services, $67,000 over 21 months. Average theft per household, $1,675, Tom announced. The no-confidence vote was unanimous, except Janet abstaining. 38 households demanded removal, prosecution, and full restitution. Friday morning, Channel 12's van arrived at dawn, followed by competing stations. Investigative reporter Janet Wilson interviewed neighbors. Evening news led with Ho president arrested in embezzlement scheme. My interview, this isn't revenge. It's accountability when someone abuses trust and targets vulnerable homeowners. Number HOAA Karen trended nationally within hours. Sandra's real estate career imploded. Brokerage suspended her license. Former clients filed complaints. The foreclosure proceeded. Her house sold $45,000 below market. Saturday, 3:47 a.m. Sandra posted a sobbing Facebook confession video. I was protecting our community and maintaining standards. Sometimes good people make hard decisions, others don't understand. Comments became a firing squad. The video disappeared within hours, but screenshots are forever. The sentencing hearing 3 months later felt like a community finale. The courthouse parking lot resembled a reunion, 35 residents carpooling. Judge Morrison's courtroom packed beyond capacity. Sandra in orange, beside her public defender, looking deflated. When called for victim statements, I stood first. Your Honor, this started with a 911 call because I opened my garage, but it was never about a car. It was about power and what happens when someone terrorizes neighbors without consequences. I described the escalating harassment, false reports, systematic theft. She didn't just steal money, she stole our peace of mind. Others spoke. Tom, Sarah, Linda. Sandra's attorney pleaded mental health, divorce, trauma, financial pressure. Sandra stood, sobbing. I never meant to hurt anyone. I was protecting something valuable. Leadership requires difficult decisions. The courtroom's collective eye roll was audible. Judge Morrison had heard enough. Miss Whitmore, in 28 years, I've rarely seen such systematic abuse combined with harassment and zero remorse. You held trust and weaponized it to steal from people who elected you. This court sentences you to 3 years in state prison, full restitution of $67,000 plus costs, license revocation, and 5 years probation. Permanently banned from any HOA leadership in Arizona. The gavel thundered. The gallery erupted in applause. As Sandra was led away in shackles, she looked back with pure hatred. Outside, a reporter asked, "What would you tell other homeowners dealing with HOA abuse? Document everything. Build community you can't fight alone. Truth wins if you refuse to give up." The quote went viral within hours. But, standing there, surrounded by neighbors who'd become friends, I realized something. We'd discovered what real community means when good people refuse to stay silent. 6 months later, Sunset Ridge transformed from police state to actual community. Saturday barbecues replaced tension. Kids played without fear. Our new board, Tom, Sarah, Mike, implemented transparency and common sense. Financial reports online. Proper meeting notices. Reasonable enforcement. Property values increased 12%. Buyers preferred defeated corruption over embezzling president. Restitution arrived over 12 months. Families paid bills, planned vacations. Sandra worked prison laundry for 63 cents per hour, sharing a cell with someone serving time for armed robbery. ASU students made garage door justice, winning festivals and streaming distribution. I donated fees to the Patterson Automotive Scholarship. 4 teens had already received college funding. Sarah and I had been dating 5 months. Discovering accountants and mechanics share systematic thinking and attention to detail. The Charger became famous as the car that defeated an HOA. Karen, I'd received offers double its value, but some things aren't for sale, especially vehicles that became symbols of standing up to institutional abuse. Every Sunday, I brought neighborhood kids to car shows, teaching them about engines and fixing things with their own hands. Watching Robert Jr. learn valve adjustments, while his dad watched with pride beat any trophy I'd ever won. Our case was cited in HOA prosecutions across 5 states. Mike spoke at legal conferences nationwide about fiduciary duty violations and community organizing. Our documentation methods became the gold standard, taught in workshops as the Patterson Protocol. Arizona passed the Sunset Ridge Act, requiring independent audits for HOAs over $75,000 and creating criminal penalties for harassment-based targeting. The bill signing ceremony included photos with the governor, but the real victory was knowing other neighborhoods wouldn't have to survive what we'd endured. Last week, a Florida Marine Corps veteran emailed another minority homeowner being systematically harassed by his HOA president. I'd started consulting pro bono with communities nationwide, sharing documentation strategies and coalition building techniques, helping others fight back. Monthly block parties became tradition, different families contributing dishes and stories, genuine friendship replacing Sandra's authoritarian control. Watching kids from different backgrounds playing together while adults shared grilling tips and home repair advice felt like discovering what suburbs were originally supposed to be. As I write this Sunday evening, I can hear Tom's lawnmower, smell Linda's weekend baking project drifting through my garage windows where I'm rebuilding a carburetor for Henderson's classic Mustang, and see Robert teaching his son how to properly change oil in their driveway. These are the sounds and smells of a healthy community, productive activity, voluntary cooperation, people choosing to help each other instead of tearing each other down. This is what we fought for, what we won. Every time I fire up that Charger and hear that 440 Magnum roar to life, I remember that sometimes the most American thing you can do is stand up to a bully, document everything meticulously, build a coalition of good people, and refuse to back down until justice is served. My grandfather was right all along. Good work, proper documentation, and standing up for what's right will always win, eventually. You just have to refuse to quit, no matter how hard they push or how close you come to breaking. The trick isn't never doubting yourself, it's pushing through the doubt when it matters most.